There's something people don't often talk about. When it comes to moving house after many years, on the surface it's seen as something practical. A move, a change, a new chapter. But if you've lived somewhere for a long time, 20, 30, even 40 years, it's not just a move. It's something much deeper than that. And in this video I want to talk about that side of it, the part that doesn't always get spoken about. Welcome, come on in, get comfy and let's sit for a while. When you've lived in a home for decades, it stops being just a place you live. It becomes a collection of memories, a record of your time, a space that quietly holds everything you've been through. Every room has a story, not in an obvious way, but in small, quiet details. These aren't things you think about every day, but when you're preparing to leave, they come back. There's often a moment when things begin to change. It might be when you start packing, or when furniture begins to disappear, or when a room starts to feel unfamiliar. A space that once felt full suddenly feels empty, and not just physically, emotionally too, because you're not just seeing a room without furniture, you're seeing a space without its history. What's interesting is it's often the smallest things that feel the most significant, not the big moments. A big one for me, and possibly a lot of other people, was the height markings on the door frame. This is a really tough thing to have to leave behind. The thought of all those times when the little ones stood there eagerly waiting to see how much they'd grown. These are always such special memories. I did find a way to ease that pain though. I bought one of those till rolls. You know, the stuff they use to print out receipts. It wasn't very expensive at all, and I just bought it off Amazon. Then I stuck it on the wall next to the height markings, making sure it went right down to the floor. I used painter's tape to hold it in place. Then I copied every single mark, number, date, name and word onto the till roll. I also took a photo of the original door frame height chart, just for good measure. No pun intended. Then, when I got to the new house, I copied it all onto another door frame and put the till roll version away for safe keeping. You could also transfer it straight onto a flat piece of wood if you prefer. I just thought I'd share what I did, as it might help someone else. Does this resonate with you? I'd love to hear any tips that you have. They might help others in the same situation. And what about the garden? If you have a garden at the house you've lived in for so long, the chances are you've put a lot of love into it. There are all the things you've planted and watched as they grow. The memories of the kids playing outside, all the barbecues and gatherings. It can be a difficult thing to walk away from. You might have neighbours that are great friends. Your kids grew up with their kids. You was always in and out of each other's houses, and you would take in each other's parcels when needed. You would keep an eye on their house and put their bins out when they were on holiday, and they would do the same for you. All these things can make this big move a bit more challenging. But it's important to remember that you will build a new life with new experiences and hopefully some fab new neighbours. And you can always keep in touch when you move away. Many people expect moving to be busy, practical, even a bit stressful. But what they don't always expect is how emotional it can feel. Because you're not just organising belongings, you're letting go of a familiar environment, stepping away from a version of your life, leaving behind something that quietly shaped you. and that can feel surprisingly heavy. People often say, it's a fresh start, and in many ways it is, but starting again can also feel uncertain, because when you've lived somewhere for a long time, that place becomes part of your identity. You know it, it knows you, and leaving that behind can feel like stepping into something unknown. This side of moving house isn't always discussed, because it doesn't fit into the usual conversation. Most people focus on the logistics, the practical steps, the next chapter. But the emotional side is quieter, more personal, and often unspoken. If you've ever felt this, or if you're going through it now, it's important to understand something. There's nothing unusual about it. It doesn't mean you're being overly emotional. It simply means you've lived, you've experienced, you've built something meaningful over time. And leaving that naturally comes with feeling. There's a moment when packing begins. At first, it might feel quite organised. You start with cupboards, drawers, things you don't use often. But gradually, you begin to come across items that aren't just things. They're connected to moments, and that's when packing slows down, because you're no longer just sorting, you're remembering. What's surprising is how many ordinary objects carry meaning. A mug, a piece of furniture, a drawer that's been opened thousands of times. Individually they don't seem important, but together they form a kind of quiet history. And when you pick them up, one by one, you're not just deciding whether to keep them, you're revisiting parts of your life. One of the most challenging parts of this process is deciding what stays and what goes. Because it's not always about usefulness, it's about meaning. You might find yourself asking, do I still need this? Why have I kept this for so long? What does this represent? And sometimes the decision isn't clear, because what you're really asking is, am I ready to let this go? Letting go doesn't always feel dramatic. It's often quite subtle. You place something in a box or decide to give something away, and there's a small pause, a moment where you recognise what it meant, and then you move on. Another part people don't often mention is how tiring it can be, not just physically but mentally, because you're making decision after decision. Keep or let go, take or leave, save or release. And over time that becomes draining, not because it's difficult in itself, but because of what those decisions represent. This is where it's important to slow down, to not rush through the process. Be gentle with yourself and allow yourself time to reflect, decide and adjust. Because this isn't just about efficiency. It's about transition, and transitions take time. If this part feels heavier than expected, that's not a problem. It's part of what this experience is. You're not just moving house, you're moving through something that involves memory, identity and change. And all of that deserves space. There's often a moment right at the end when everything is done, the boxes are packed, the rooms are empty, and you walk through the house one last time. It's usually quiet, very quiet, and that silence can feel different, because it's not the usual quiet of a home. It's the quiet of something coming to an end. You might walk from room to room, not really doing anything, just noticing, taking it in. When a home is empty, it looks different. not just physically, but emotionally. Rooms that once felt full of life now feel open, bare and unfamiliar. And in that moment, you're not just seeing the house as it is, you're seeing it without everything that made it yours. And that can feel quite significant. Then comes a very simple action. Closing the door. Looking at it for the last time. It's a small moment, but it carries a lot of meaning, because it marks a clear point, before and after. And even if you don't say anything, you feel it. After that, everything moves forward. There's travel, arrival, unpacking. But stepping into a new place can feel very different. Even if it's comfortable, even if it's right for you, it's still unfamiliar. The sounds are different. The light feels different. The layout is new. And it can take time for that to feel like home. People often describe a new home as a fresh start, a blank slate, and in many ways it is. But a blank slate can also feel a little empty at first, because it doesn't yet hold your routines, your memories, your sense of familiarity, and that takes time to build. One thing that becomes clear over time is that not everything has been left behind. Because while the physical space has changed, your experiences haven't. What you've lived, what you've learned, what you've built over the years, that all comes with you. It's just no longer attached to a place. A new home doesn't feel like home straight away, and that's completely normal. It becomes familiar gradually, through daily routines, small habits, and time spent in the space. Little by little, it starts to feel more comfortable, more natural, more yours. Over time, the way you see the move can begin to shift. It's no longer just about what was left behind. It becomes about what continues, what carries forward, and what you create next. The past doesn't disappear. It becomes part of you, rather than part of a place. This kind of transition doesn't need to be rushed. There's no need to move on quickly. It's something that settles over time, quietly, naturally, and in your own way. Instead of thinking of it as leaving something behind, you might begin to see it as carrying something forward. Not the physical space, but everything it represented. Because what made that house meaningful was never just the house itself. It was what happened within it. And it's completely natural for that to feel significant. But what you've built over those years doesn't disappear. It stays with you in a different way. So if you're going through this or thinking about it, give yourself time. Allow the process to unfold and trust that in time the new space will begin to feel like home. If this is something you've experienced or are going through now, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. It's something many people understand, even if it's not spoken about. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Take gentle care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.